Week 11, lesson 6. Okay, so if you have already downloaded these notes / worksheet, you'll know that it's 3 pages long, and you might be thinking, holy crap, that's a lot to do. But I'm going to do some of it here in this video so you know exactly what to do within each section. And then you'll just have to finish it, and that's the only lesson for today. And if you focus, and especially if you have your unit circle filled out and nearby, this shouldn't be too difficult. Okay, so let's take a look at section number 1. Okay, which the directions are, let's figure out which quadrant the angle is in, all right? And you'll notice that some of these are in radians, right? And some are in degrees. I need you comfortable in both. And then it says find the reference angle, all right? And if you don't remember, a reference angle is acute, all right? It has to be acute, and it has to be made with the x-axis, and it has to be positive. Okay, so even if the given angle is negative, your reference angle will be positive. Okay, so in this section, let's do one of them that's in degrees and one that's in radians. Okay, so the one that's in degrees, I'm going to do this one right here. Okay, and for me, personally, the easiest way to do this is to draw just a little picture. I know that 150 degrees is more than 90, but less than 180, so this is 150 degrees, which is in quadrant 2. So let me just go ahead and write that down right now, quadrant 2. All right, now as far as the reference angle, this is the acute angle made with the x-axis. Okay, the question is, how many degrees are there in that angle? Well, if that's 150 to there and it's 180 all the way to there, you can see that 30 degrees is the reference angle. Okay, so let's try one that's in radians. Maybe, I don't know, 7 pi over 6. Let's do this one. Okay, and again, I tend to draw a lot of pictures, okay? That's just sort of the way that I am. So 7 pi over 6 is more than 1 pi, right? 6 pi over 6 is exactly 1 pi. So it's all the way to 1 pi plus just a little bit more. Okay, so that's quadrant 3. Now, the question is, how much is this measure, right? It's an acute angle made with the x-axis. If this all the way to here is 6 pi over 6, and this line is drawn at 7 pi over 6, then that little wedge that I've shaded in is just 1 pi over 6. That's the reference angle. All right, so that's how you do section 1. Okay, so I've scooted it up. Now I'm looking at section 2, and all this section is asking for is on the unit circle, right? On the unit circle, what is the ordered pair at this particular location? Okay, now some of these are going to be really, really easy, right? Like this one. Oh, well, that should have been a highlighter. Sorry about that. This one. There we go. All right, that's easily found on the unit circle, right? If you just sort of draw your unit circle out, or if you have it, it's right here, and that ordered pair is -1, 0. Okay, but some of these are not going to be quite as obvious, like, oh, this one, right? You can look and look and look. You're not going to find it on the unit circle. You're going to have to understand that that thing rotates around like a lot, right? As a mixed number. -25/4 is actually -6 1/4 pi. So you're going to have to kind of think about, okay, if I'm starting here and I'm going in the negative direction, this is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, and a quarter of the way more. I'm down here in the 4th quadrant, right, with the denominator of 4, so that ordered pair is positive rad 2 over 2, negative rad 2 over 2. Okay, so that's how you do section 2. Okay, so for part 3, this is sort of a 2-part thing. Okay, part 1, you're going to need to figure out where on the unit circle you are. Okay, so let's just take a look at, I don't know, I'm picking one at random, this one. Okay, so on the unit circle, if I go to that location, I know that there's an ordered pair I'm going to write it at the top of the screen. The ordered pair there is rad 2 over 2, rad 2 over 2. Okay, so I've taken care of looking at where I am. Now, this is telling me what to use from that ordered pair, right? Cosine is the x value. So the answer here is rad 2 over 2. So just a reminder, cosine is going to be the x, sine is going to be the y, tangent is y over x, and then there are the reciprocal functions, right? So there's secant, which is the reciprocal of cosine. There is cosecant, which is the reciprocal of sine, and there's cotangent, which is the reciprocal of tangent. All right, now again, this should be a review lesson. If it's not, right, if some of this is just like, I don't remember this at all you have to do is ask me either in class or via Zoom, and I can further clarify this. Okay, so for section 4, notice that it does say something about calculator practice, so you're going to need your calculator. And then depending on whether you want your answers in degrees or radians, make sure your calculator is in the right form. Okay, so I'm going to do this in degrees, and I'm going to do example number 1 for you, and then you can finish the rest. All right, so the first thing I want you to notice about number 1 is since the cosine is negative and the sine is positive, that means we are in quadrant number 2. Okay, so the angle that you get, which is what I'm going to do first, you need to do it in the correct quadrant. So let me switch over to calculator, and then we'll come back. Okay, so for that particular problem, I'm going to make sure my calculator is in degrees, which I can see right now that it is not. So if I go to second, no, actually not second, I think it's just mode. Yep, it's mode. Go on down and select degrees. Okay, so now my calculator is in degrees, and you can see it up here at the top. Okay, so I'm going to do second cosine because I'm trying to figure out the angle of negative 0.866. All right, and when I do that, my calculator tells me 149.9. I'm just going to make that 150, right? Because 0.997 kind of does round up. So that would be the angle. Okay, so now that we know that the angle is 150 degrees, then I can just go ahead and either use my calculator and do the tangent of 150, or since I know this is on the unit circle, I can go to 150 degrees, I can do the tangent, which is the y value over the x value, and I would get 1 over rad 3. If you wanted to simplify that, that would be rad 3 over 3. Okay, now for section 5, again, you will need a calculator, so I'm going to switch over to calculator mode in just a second, but I want you to know that I'm going to be doing problem number 1, okay, and probably there's 2 really, really important parts here. I'm going to be having my answers in degrees, okay, and the most important part, it has to be in the correct quadrant. Okay, so I'm going to switch over. I'm going to do problem number 1, and then come back to the answer. Okay, for this particular problem, I'm going to do, first off, I'm going to make sure my calculator's in degrees, which it is. So I'm going to hit second sine because that's what you hit when you're trying to find an angle. And the decimal that I have here for number 1 is negative 0.2924. 2924. Okay, now notice this angle that I have is negative 17 degrees, okay? My calculator has not lied to me, okay? It's just that the calculator can only give me one of 2 possible answers because sine is negative in 2 different quadrants. It's negative in quadrant 3 and it's negative in quadrant 4. So this problem, if you look at the paper, it says we want the one in quadrant 3, okay? So what that is right there, it's the reference angle, all right? It's a reference angle, which is acute, made with the x-axis, and positive. Okay, so we're going to call the reference angle positive 17. So if I want to put that into quadrant 3, I have to go 180 degrees, right? And then 17 degrees more.
which makes the answer 197.
All right, so then the answer is 197 degrees. All right, and lastly, I am not doing section 6. This is putting it all together. There's only one problem to do. I want you guys to do it. This is probably the one that I'm going to check the most when you turn this in. I mean, I will look over the whole thing, but number 7, when you finish it on your own, is the most important part.